Frankie Russo. Frankie Russo, how are you tonight? Coming at you straight out of Brooklyn. Yeah, I was on the computer for some time for the last few days, trying to put some things together, and I'm getting there. I'm not there yet, but I got a few things to show you. I'm not going to stay on long. First of All-Star break. So they had the home run derby today. I didn't see. I was on the computer. I was researching. So that's what's going on with that. So baseball right now is on break. Football starting end of July. They got the camps opening up for the New York Giants, and basketball won't start till October. But who knows? Maybe we'll end up with Westbrook, the New York Knicks. You never know. We'll know in December about that one. So that's where we are with sports right now, because I don't want to stay on long. I want to cut to the chase. So I ran into this article while I was running around, and it raised some. I became very suspicious, so I started to do some research on it. What's that? The picture's not getting. There it is. Now it's better. Okay. So I ran into this article. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure the thing was straight. But anyway, I ran into this article, and it's about the one of the producers of the Wolf of Wall Street is charged with money laundering in Malaysia. In other words, taking the people's money of Malaysia and putting it into a film. He is this guy, Riza Aziz, is the stepson of the former Prime Minister Najib Razak. So Najib Razak is the former Prime Minister. He's no longer the Prime Minister, but he's been put up on charges with this big scandal in Malaysia, money laundering scandal. So I got very suspicious about this, because knowing what's gone on in Malaysia from the 9/11 hijacker summit in 2000, where Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, Muslim Brotherhood, Muhammad Atta, Al-Hamzi, Al-Madar met prior to, 3 days after because they tried to hit one of our vessels, the USS the Sullivans, and that was stopped. So then they planned and orchestrated, they started to, 3 days after in January, in Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. And so what they did was they plotted to hit, that's when they did in October, I think, of 2000 was the USS Cole. And then unfortunately, almost a year later, we had Muhammad Atta, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, Al-Madar, Al-Hamzi, the 19 hijackers hit through the horrific hit on the World Trade Center. So one of the trigger points we had on my website, one of the vectors, was the January 2000 9/11 hijacker summit in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, right? So that's one aspect. And then if you understand, because I'm not going to bring the map out tonight, but if you understand Malaysia, where Kuala Lumpur is, it's not far from Singapore, and it borders the Strait of Malacca. The Strait of Malacca is where China imports through this water passageway between Malaysia and the Sumatra Island, they import 80% of their oil. So that's another thing. It just raises eyebrows based on overall global activities with these nations. This thing with Riza Aziz, one of the producers of The Wolf of Wall Street, big film, big budget film, big box office hit. He's the head of this. Riza Aziz is the head of Red Granite Productions. His father is his stepson. His stepfather is Najib Razak, the former prime minister of Malaysia, who's heavily implicated in this. They call it the 1MDB scandal in Malaysia. It's basically taking the money of the people of Malaysia and, for example, putting it into the filming of the making of The Wolf of Wall Street. So taking people's money and using it for personal use, right? So I became right away suspicious because of the area, right? And Malaysia, because I feel that Malaysia is like a stealthy, and I find some things out as I've been doing some research that Muslim Brotherhood has a pretty profound presence in Malaysia. This guy Anwar Ibrahim runs this Justice Party, and it's patterned after the Freedom and Justice Party in Egypt that Mohammed Morsi at one time oversaw, right? So this guy Anwar Ibrahim and another gentleman, I forgot he's an older individual. I'll have his name tomorrow, but he was working with this gentleman, and eventually I think he took over. This guy, if I have it here, let me see if I have it here. So he worked with, because basically it's made up with, they call Malaysians, and Muslims. Muslim Brotherhood is the swing vote, basically. So they have a say. They're trying to basically, Anwar Ibrahim, the head of this party, is trying to basically take over Malaysia. So I have his name here. I'll find it. If I don't find it tonight, he's involved with a former, I don't have it here. Let me see. I'll find it right off the internet. So basically, while I'm looking, I just wanted to show a few articles. It's late. So this guy Anwar Ibrahim, and let me see. I'll get it for you now. Anwar Ibrahim. I can't believe I lost the. Okay, Ibrahim, Malaysia, and right, and this guy. Let me see, Mohammed. Who's the guy that took over? Right, he went him and somebody else. But here it is. I think I got it. Here it is. Right. Okay. Here he is. Okay. The current prime minister, the comeback part of the plan for the politician to succeed current prime minister Mahathir Mohamad is Anwar. Okay, so he's working with Mahathir Mohamad. Anwar Ibrahim, the president of the Justice Party, the Muslim Brotherhood Party in Malaysia, is working with him, with the current prime minister. Okay, so the prime minister, Mijab Razak, is the one that's right now implicated in this multi-billion-dollar stealing of the Malaysian people's money for personal use. Like, for example, his stepson, Riza Aziz, took, they're claiming anyway, allegedly, he's charged with this. It's a big scandal to make the movie The Wolf, took the money, the Malaysian people's money, to make the movie The Wolf of Wall Street, basically. This is crazy. You can't make this stuff up. But I became very suspicious of this. So just to give you an idea of some of the stuff that I've come up with, I found, because I like to look at different things, and I'm not gonna say I'm too long. I just want to show you what I found so far, and I'm gonna get off the air because I haven't found anything tangentially yet with Aziz Riza and this guy, this Iranian national, Zanjani, of the First Islamic Investment Bank, and/or with Riza Zarab, the Turkish Iranian, here, the Turkish Iranian, is Riza Zarab, a resident of Turkey. Here's the article. Oh, wait. I got the article over here. Wait, hold up with me. Stay with me. Okay, good. So this is the article. I don't know how well you see it. Now you see it better. Okay, good. So it's Turkish national arrested for conspiring to evade U.S. sanctions against Iran, money laundering, and bank fraud. So this guy copped a plea or whatever. Just what he's done. Riza Zarab, a resident of Turkey and dual citizen of Turkey and Iran. Basically, he and a few other individuals were facing indictment. He wasn't, he wasn't. It was a unsealed indictment, and he copped a plea, so he became a witness. But they were indicted for engaging in hundreds of millions of dollars worth of transactions on behalf of the government of Iran and other Iranian entities, which were barred by U.S. sanctions, laundering the proceeds of those illegal transactions and defrauding several financial institutions by concealing the true nature of these transactions. Now, just to give you an idea of what the depth. So basically, without getting into all the minutia, he was charged for bribing Erdogan with millions of dollars, bribing Erdogan's son with millions of dollars, by bribing Erdogan's grandson, that's the prime minister of Turkey, with millions of dollars, and bribing Erdogan's wife with millions of dollars. And while doing that, the favor that was extended to him by Erdogan was through the Turkish banks. He ended up with all these transactions, money laundering through the Turkish banks, to the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps. So that's basically the thrust. And basically, between 2010 and 2015, Zarab conspired to conduct international financial transactions on behalf of and for the benefit of among others, Iranian businesses. The Iranian government entities owned and controlled by the Iranian government. Among the beneficiaries of this scheme was Bank Melat, which is a U.S. Treasury designated terrorist entity. And I just point to 650 Fifth Avenue building, and there were, that was a big, owned by the Shah, and it became a big money laundering scheme for the Islamic Republic of Iran. And I've talked about it before on the show with Mohammad Zarif, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, who was at the time the Iranian diplomat. He was at one time the Iranian diplomat, the Iranian ambassador to the UN, and that's how we got into our jurisdiction, like Mohammed Morsi. And he eventually became executive director of the Alevi Foundation, which owned an interest in Bank 650 Fifth Avenue. Became a big money laundering scheme, and to this day, people can't believe he escaped implication in this big money laundering scheme with the 650 Fifth Avenue. He was never indicted, never prosecuted, nothing. Mohammad Zarif, the negotiator, the Iranian negotiator for the fake Iranian nuke deal. So among the beneficiaries was Bank Melat of Iran during the time of the charged offenses by the Department of the Treasury's Office of the Foreign Assets Control as a specially designated national under the Iranian Transactions and Sanctions Regulations, the Iranian Financial Sanctions Regulations, and the Weapons of Mass Destruction Proliferator Sanctions Regulations. Melat Exchange, an Iranian money services business owned and controlled by Bank Melat. The National Iranian Oil Company, identified during the time of the charged offenses by the OFAC, the Office of Foreign Assets Control, as an agent or affiliate of Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. Under the Trump administration, President Trump, for the first time in our history, U.S. Treasury history, that we designated a government entity, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, as a terrorist organization. First time. So this is what this Reza Zarab was charged with, right? Turkish national. A lot of corruption throughout the world, right? But I'm very intrigued with this because with Malaysia and this, okay, so this other guy I found, before I get into Reza Aziz, this guy, Babak Zanjani, an Iranian businessman, along with a Malaysian bank, the first Islamic investment bank. We've talked about this bank, and an international network, of companies for moving. Okay, so the U.S. Treasury Department designated Babak Zanjani, an Iranian businessman, along with a Malaysian bank and an international network of companies, for moving billions of dollars on behalf of the Iranian regime, including tens of millions of dollars to an Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps company. So, as international sanctions have become increasingly stifling, Iran has resorted to criminal money laundering techniques. Why am I not shocked? Moving its oil and money under false names, and according to David Cohen of the U.S. Treasury, whether through this individual, Babak Zanjani, or tomorrow's chosen accomplice. Relentless in exposing and thwarting Iran's attempts to evade international sanctions and abuse the global financial system. So basically, what did he do? Okay, so what did he do? In a nutshell, basically, he was using Iran parks oil off Malaysia to dodge Western sanctions, basically. So basically, this Babak Zanjani is using a little known port off the East Malaysia coast to hide millions of barrels of oil from Western sanctions, according to shipping data and industry. This is according to Reuters. A Reuters examination of shipping movements and interviews show how Iranian crude is shipped to the area and loaded onto empty vessels at night to await potential Asian buyers, storing the oil on hired tankers operating under the Panamanian flag in calm waters off the tax haven port of Labuan, an offshore financial center about the size of Manhattan. It's right off, it's in Malaysia. It's not, it's property of it's federal property is Labuan, and it's not actually on the island of Malaysia, but it's on it's across the Indian Ocean on the it's on the side. If I was to look at it, it's on the north, south, east. If I was to look at it, it's because it's part of Indonesia, but Malaysia owns it basically. I'm trying to how do I explain it? I was looking at it today on the computer. Sorry for the confusion, but an offshore financial center about the size of Manhattan means Iran can keep its own fleet active and ensure the flow of oil money into its smuggling economy. So it's really interesting because there are signs of Iran smuggling in the Gulf of Oman, which is right off not far from the Strait of Malacca, the Strait of Hormuz, right off the Persian Gulf. And there's actual photos of that. Iran smuggling off the Gulf of Oman with Omanians, and we've pointed to the fact that the Omanian government actually taxes the Omanian smugglers. That's how profound it is, right? So at least 2 large oil tankers have been unloaded in this way in recent weeks, and several more Iranian vessels were steaming towards Asia, according to Reuters, which tracks the movement of the global tanker fleet. One was destined for a Chinese port, while 3 others carrying as much as 6 million barrels of crude or fuel oil were sailing to unknown destinations. Iran would like to shift more oil to what is effectively a mobile storage depot off Malaysia's coast over the next few months, said an injury source familiar with Iran's planning who didn't want to be identified. But it is struggling to find ship owners willing to offer vessels for storage. While not illegal, the dead of night transfer of oil in the South China Sea illustrates the length of which, well, it is illegal because, according to Reuters, it's not illegal. Well, Iran's sanctioned. President Trump has put forth heavy sanctions on Iran's exporting of oil. Heavy sanctions on Iran's because Iran is in OPEC with, and I think they're up there with Iraq. You know, obviously Saudi Arabia is one of the top global oil producers on the planet. Apparently, thank you, President Trump, America right now is the #1 oil exporter on the planet. But so with that being said, the transfer of oil in the South China Sea illustrates. Oh, so that's right, because it's not far from the South China Sea. Is this Labuan? It's an island, and this is where this guy Babak Sanjani, the Iranian national, has been doing this. Apparently he sold over 21 million. He sold over 21 million barrels, over 21 million, 24 million, over 24 million barrels of oil he has sold from the working from this Labuan island off the coast of it's off the coast of Indonesia, but it's a part that's owned by Malaysia. I don't know how else to explain it, but because on the way it goes is you have the Strait of Malacca, which is the water passageway where 80% of China's oil goes through, right? And you have the Sumatra Island, and if I had a coordinate system, a Cartesian coordinate system in the southwest, it's in the third quadrant, and about in the second quadrant, above the Sumatra Island is Malaysia, and that's where Kuala Lumpur is, and I'll show you the map tomorrow, and that's where Singapore is, right? And 80% of China's oil goes through there. So I become very suspicious of what the heck is going on in Malaysia. Money laundering, radical Islamists, the rise of Muslim Brotherhood, and apparently Hamas is there, according to some published reports. So what the heck is going on over there? Now, a gentleman named Anwar Ibrahim Anwar, president of the Justice Party, the Muslim Brotherhood Party, wants to take over and become eventually the prime minister of Malaysia. And we got this Iranian national. There's this first Islamic investment bank designated, U.S. Treasury designated foreign terrorist entity. It's owned by an Iranian national. And this guy, Zanjani, for his work in selling the oil to get around the Western sanctions, garnered shares in this first Islamic investment bank owned by an Iranian national. So here's Iran basically in Asia, but like, a little ways away, right? And has an Iranian national that owns a bank in Malaysia, and using that bank, apparently, according to U.S. Treasury, using that bank for terrorist activities, for proliferation of weapons of mass destruction, Iranian Military Guard Corps funding, Quds Force funding, nuclear programming funding, the first Islamic investment bank in Malaysia. So this guy, Babak Zanjani, the Iranian national that's selling the oil, approximately over 24 million barrels of oil off this Labuan island, right off of Malaysia. Unbelievable, right? Not far from the South China Seas, right? And what I found crazy was, who's holding this guy's money? I think he's worth about 13 billion, but now he's got some legal problems. They were trying to when Rouhani, before Rouhani, the Hassan Rouhani became prime minister, he was okay because he had a very close, very good rapport with Ahmadinejad, this Iranian national Zanjani. But once Hassan Rouhani took over, they started to crack down on this guy, and they're threatening his death. He had a trial, and so he's worth about 13 billion, something like that, right? And you know who's holding his money? Apparently, this guy Reza Zarab, the Turkish Iranian. So I'm like, wow, what the heck is going on over here? So now we got, okay, wait. So I'm like, what's going on? I don't have anything yet with this guy Reza Aziz. This what is it? I don't have anything with this Reza Aziz stuff, because understand now, why do I look at this stuff? Because this is how Iran funds. This is why when you find this stuff out, why is Obama? Why is Hillary Clinton? Why is the Obama Clinton crime family giving Iran $150 billion back? And they'll use the excuse of the Hague and the jet fighter transaction, and they never got the jet fighters, and we held it $400 million or whatever it was at the time in the late 70s. This was prior to Iran. And once Iran did the 79 revolution and had hostages, we just kept the money. And then all the interest for all the years, apparently, it came out to hundreds of billions. I don't know, but that's what the fake, the traitors, the treasonous acts, the anti-American vector field of the Obama Clinton crime family. That's what they were purporting to the American people, right? So with all this going on, right, I'm saying to myself, how does the Obama Clinton crime family give them that money? Because basically Iran, if you really want to be honest about it, they really don't care. The Islamic Republic of Iran, their government, don't care about their people. They couped Ahmadinejad when he was president. He was actually, they just overthrew an election, right? They couped him. He stood in power by a coup, right? There was a coup in Iran. So Ahmadinejad, because he's from the IRGC, the Iranian Military God Corps. So they don't care about their people, right? They'll make they'll make these things up that they're moderates. They're not moderates. There's no the moderates are not running Iran. If there is moderates in Iran, the Iranian government, they're not running the government. It's the Khomeini, right? Let's be real and honest, right? It's the Khomeini. So we got this. So I'm like, how? Like, it's like even when I do these vectors, and I got like 7 vectors. I'm working on the 8th vector. And I got a little off the vector because I saw this thing because the 8th vector, I was going to get into Libya and Egypt and all that, and I'm gonna. But this thing with Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, I was just like, I got to check this out. I got very curious. I'm still not done, but I haven't actually but I just don't believe when I find these things out about Reza Harab, the Turkish Iranian national, and this guy, Babak Zanjani, the Iranian national, how they're tied together. Apparently, Reza Zarab was holding Babak Zanjani's money, 13.5 billion. All published reports. So I don't know whether it was 13.5 billion, it was 2 billion, it was 3 billion. It's a lot of money he's holding for him. So they're ties with. There's a tie. I mean, it's just unbelievable, right? So Reza Aziz, the stepson of the former prime minister of Malaysia, the producer of The Wolf of Wall Street, I don't have a tangential connection yet with the First Islamic Investment Bank, owned by an Iranian national. No connection yet to Babak Zanjani, the Iranian national who sold 24 million barrels of oil, Iranian oil, unbelievable, off the Labuan port in Malaysia. Unbelievable, right by the South China Sea. Unbelievable. Are you shocked, right? With ties to Reza Zarab, the Turkish Iranian national who was bribing the Erdogan family, father, the prime minister, the wife of the prime minister, the son of the prime minister and the grandson of the prime minister, with millions of dollars, so the prime minister could open up the Turkish banks to money launder to the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps. Crazy stuff. As President Trump sanctions for the first time the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, a government entity. Unbelievable stuff. You can't make this stuff up, right? So that's where I am right now. So tomorrow, because it's kind of late, tomorrow I'm going to bring in the map. We're going to look at the map, and I'm going to show you how this all ties in and why I'm so curious about this stuff, why we look at this stuff and try to figure out, because this money laundering, quite frankly, is funding the global Iranian terror network. The global jihad is being funded by this money laundering activities of these rogue nations like Malaysia, like Iran, right? It's crazy stuff, but it's true. And now and there's also, with all this going on, there's a Chinese national, right? He's Malaysian. Well, he's Malaysian, but he lives in China, right? He's Malaysian. He's Ho Lo, right? According to, I'm still sifting through the data, so I haven't, but he's supposedly the real player. So we'll see how this all plays out. Is this a, I don't know how because right now he's right now considered, this guy Ho Lo is considered a Malaysian fugitive because he's wanted. Apparently he's involved because, oh yeah, the other piece I forgot to tie this in with. I forgot to tie this in. This is a big piece. The Saudi kingdom gave the former prime minister, this Najib Razak, gave him upwards of 600 to 800 million to get rid of Muslim Brotherhood out of Malaysia. That was the undertone of the transaction. So I don't know. They took that money. It's part of the money that was made to make Wolf of Wall Street. I don't know. But that's what all this speculation, all this investigation is about. And that's what this, because basically that's supposed to be the people's money, the Malaysian people's money was used to make, for example, the blockbuster movie Wolf of Wall Street. And that was headed by the Red Granite Productions, Riza Aziz. So that's where we are right now. So I don't even have a tangential connection with Riza Aziz and or with Babak Zanjani and or with Riza Arab, the Turkish Iranian national, and Babak Zanjani is the Iranian national. So that's where I am. I'll be on the air tomorrow. Sorry I got here so late. I get caught up on the computer and I just start to read and look and start to research. So this is interesting because I'm going to show you when I get done why we're doing this. When you look at this and what happens with the activities in Malaysia. Oh, in addition, which I forgot to talk about, like what Kenneth Tillman talks about, right? He talks about how the money flows, because he wrote a book called Dark Forces: Truth About Benghazi. You got to get it. It's a great book. I read it. Right. So he got all the data he was there in the North African, Middle Eastern region, like Iraq, and spoke to some intelligence officers in Iraq. He got all this data, right? So Benghazi, the cover-up of Benghazi is that Iran, through Ansar al-Sharia, the Sunni militia, the Sunni terrorist group, was a cutout put together by Iran. The Iranian Quds Force, Hezbollah, and the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps put together this Sunni terrorist group, the Sunni cutout, made of a free agent Al Qaeda foreign fighters, right? So basically, and also in addition, based on Rabin Ibrahim's reporting, the also Muslim Brotherhood operatives were sent by Morsi at the time from the Muhammad Jamal network, made up this Ansar al-Sharia, so there'll be no footprint going back to the Islamic Republic of Iran, to the Iranian Quds Force, to the Iranian Military Guard Corps. So they throw out the Sunni militia like they always do, and that they were responsible for the attack, the horrific attack on the Benghazi mission. And Kenneth Tillman takes it a step further. He claims that it was an $8 to $10 million transaction. So it was part of the Iranian global terror network, the Sunni Shiite nexus. So Iran materially supported the Ansar al-Sharia, the Sunni militia, the Sunni terrorist group, with money, 8 to 10 million, between Mohammad Jodaki and Khalil Harab, Hezbollah and Quds Force, right? Got together. Apparently, Mohammad Jodaki brought the money to Khalil Harab, 8 to 10 million. And where did Kenneth Tillman say it came from? The Quds Force bank accounts in Malaysia. Do I know what bank? No. If I had to render a guess, probably the First Islamic Investment Trust in Malaysia. Iranian National Bank. Owned by an Iranian national. The First Islamic Investment Bank. And that's the bank that this guy Babak Zanjani is part of. So understand something. Frankie Russo, you're Islamophobic, you're xenophobic, you're a white supremacist, all this crazy stuff people, say. Why are you talking about Iran? And my biggest fear, my biggest concern, and to me, it's one of the, there's three vectors that threaten our way of life, the American way of life. The one vector is the 130 tons to 350 tons of uranium that Iran has in its possession. And that's why I track and follow money. I try to follow money, meaning I try to follow these money laundering schemes or whatever, to see what the heck is going on and see if there's any sort of Iranian hand in there some way, whether it's a national or Iranian national or the Iranian Military Guard Corps or the Quds Force or some sort of the Basij militia from Iran, some sort of hand of Iran in there. So we're still looking with this Riza Aziz from the Wolf of Wall Street. But this is the reason why we do these things, because our biggest threat is the 130 tons to 350 tons of uranium that Iran has in its possession. Remember, a kilogram of uranium-235 put through the nuclear fission process produces 9 times 10 to the 13 joules of heat energy. That's 9 and 13 zeros of heat energy. So what is Iran doing with 130 tons to 350 tons of uranium? They're going to help their people? I don't believe it. And as Netanyahu, the great prime minister of Israel, and his great Mossad, the intelligence hub, came out of their investigation, and they fleeced the Iranian atomic archive files and found out that Iran is heavily involved in weaponizing their nuclear energy. So that being said, that fake Obama Iranian nuke deal is fake. It didn't include the Iranian ballistic missile program inside the Iranian nuke deal. And I just point towards North Korea, and North Korea has miniaturized nuclear warheads. They're highly confident that North Korea has miniaturized nuclear warheads for its long-term ballistic missile program. And according to the DIA report, it's old news. It goes back to 2006. And yet the Obama Clinton crime family, anti-American vector field, sat on its hands with Rocket Man, sat on its hands with Assad, sat on its hands and acted like they were doing such a great thing for America, getting rid of Mubarak, who was pro Israel, pro-America, and put in a pro-Iranian regime in Morsi, who was basically an intelligence puppet, an Egyptian diplomat created by the intelligence community, as is Mohammed Zarif, quite frankly, and we're going to get into all this over the next few days. So this is Frankie Russo. God bless. I'm signing out of here tonight. I'm out of here. God bless the men and women of the United States Armed Forces. Thank you for the freedom you're providing me so I can come up here and broadcast straight out of Brooklyn. I thank you. God bless the greatest country on the planet, America. I love my country. And God bless our great president, Donald John Trump. This is Frankie Russo. See you tomorrow night. Hopefully I have some more information on this. Riza Aziz, the producer of the movie, the hit movie, Wolf of Wall Street. This is Frankie Russo. I'll see you tomorrow night, 9. I'll try again earlier, 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. This is Frankie Russo, and I'll see you in the future.